close to Daniel Jones from the Giants. Daniel, is that you? Beat the Chiefs. Show me. If the Broncos and Russell Wilson can show me that they can beat the Chiefs, then I will start believing.
The crowd up. And so are this defense, and Kansas City won't snap the ball again. The Denver Broncos have beaten the Kansas City Chiefs.
David Montgomery on the Lions. Former Bear, gonna make this his revenge game for sure. David Montgomery gets the touchdown that ices the game. No! And there's the flag. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. There's flags. Snap. Hold. Kick.
Denver wins! Denver wins! Let's go!
They open. No!
What happened? Oh shit.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the only football podcast. Tonight, we are going to recap the Super Bowl between the Chiefs and the 49ers. The Chiefs are a certified dynasty, and Kyle and I are going to talk about it. Then we're going to go into some off-season storylines. We were going to talk about news, pickups, drops, cuts, all that good stuff. And then we're going to get into a little bit about the only football podcast off-season schedule, as well as giving you guys, just some inside info on what to expect for the rest of the season. And of course, we're going to end it with a little chives with Kyle. Let's get it. America is football.
America is football. Football is America. If you don't like it, you can kiss your candy ass. For the moment in time, I'll give it 10. Oh my God!
No!
You love this.
30-27. Chiefs win. Chiefs win 30-20.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Kansas City Chiefs are 3-time Super Bowl champions in the last 5 years.
Three-time. And Kyle loves it. Right, Kyle?
I don't love it at all. I'm not Max Crosby, where he's like, I'm gonna cheer for the Chiefs so that we're the ones to knock them off. No, I'm not cheering for them. And then on top of that, I saw my Brian Urlacher hand Mahomes the trophy. So it could not have been any worse. But for the Chiefs, things are looking really good. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot to talk about with this game. We definitely are going to do the game breakdown and stuff, but there was a couple things that stood out to me about the main headlines that I saw when I woke up today. The number one thing was, of course, this game went into overtime. The league reminded everybody on X about the rules. Both teams have the opportunity to get the ball. And this is postseason. We haven't really seen it applicable since the rule came in. Mm-hmm. But Kyle Shanahan's been under some scrutiny for his decision after winning the coin toss to receive the football. And he went on to say that his thinking was, and I quote, "It's just something we talked about. None of us had a ton of experience with it, but we went through all the analytics. I talked to those guys. We just thought it would be better. We wanted the ball third because if both teams matched and scored, we wanted to be the ones with a chance to go win." Yeah. Got that field goal, so knew we had to hold them to a field goal. And if we did, we thought it was in our hands after that. Mm-hmm. Okay, not a problem right there. But this is what the problem is, okay? Kyle Shanahan says that he had a plan in place for overtime. Now, the other 49er players say something like this. I'll quote exactly. What? I didn't even realize the playoff rules were different in overtime. 49ers fullback Kyle Juszczyk said after the game, I assume you just want the ball to score a touchdown and win. I guess that's not the case. I don't totally know the strategy there. We didn't talk about it. No. So And then I'm like, okay, there's
Oh,
always
God.
one, right? There's always one.
Yeah.
I remember probably in the early 2000s, Donovan McNabb, after a tie game, came out
Mhm.
and said he didn't know the rules. He
Yep.
was attacked. I think it happened like 10 years later. It's been a while since this
Mhm.
happened again, especially at a game of this magnitude. And I thought it would just be him. No, Niners defensive end Eric Armstead also didn't know the rules. He
Yep.
said, I didn't even know about the new playoff overtime rule, so it was a surprise to me. I didn't even really know what was going on in terms of that. Coach Kyle Shanahan suggested he at
Jesus
least had
Christ.
a strategy, but you look at these other players, and Rick, we know more than they do about overtime and the rules in the NFL. How do these guys not know? Like,
I
how do you know? Are they lying? They got to be bullshitting. There's no
that
way.
this is this is like one of the issues I have. And shout out to Bill. He said the Knicks just got screwed by the refs. I'm watching YouTube. New York Tears. Love it.
New York Tears.
Thanks for coming on, Bill. But dude, I am so like shocked at these players saying that. Like I am so like, how is it that you and I and like hundreds of possibly thousands of people who go online and talk about these rules know more than the players themselves when it gets to a situation like this? You should not be going into overtime in the Super Bowl and being like, hey, so if we score, we win, right? That should not be the question. That should not be the fucking question in your mind as you're going forward. Kyle Shanahan was saying that you got some the players on the other side going, we didn't fucking know, man. We just wanted to win. You know what I mean? Like they didn't get it. But the whole Chiefs versus Bills game, that divisional game that happened a few years ago, that was what happened. That is what changed the rules in the playoffs. You know, the Super Bowl too. Like those were the ref. Do you understand the rules? Yes, yes. How do you not say no? Can you repeat them, please, for the rest of my teammates over there?
What is
Juszczyk,
it?
fucking Armstead.
Speak now or forever hold your peace, right?
Please speak now, hold your peace. A closed mouth does not get fed. Like,
Not on
God,
this boulevard.
like, come on, you know. So I am really just at the end of the day when I was hearing this stuff and I was seeing all the interviews about that, about we didn't really know what the rules were for overtime. I was like, how the fuck do I know more than you guys? Like, we're looking them up just to be sure that we're correct in our thinking. You guys are playing the damn game. You have 30 coaches on the sideline to tell you what the overtime rules are. And you just don't say anything. And you go into the media afterwards and go, we have no idea. I don't know, man. I don't know if it's bullshit. It sounded legit. Maybe they were salty. I don't know. Either way, I'm just shocked at what I
Yeah.
heard.
Well, the thing that stands out to me is if you really don't know and you feel like, hey, if we get some points, we win the game. I don't really know what in their head they thought, but I would assume if they didn't think that it would go back and forth, that the first points would win the game like 20 years ago, which we know that the 49ers, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure they've been in overtime games since Juszczyk's been on the team. And the other thing is like, how is the team supposed to have a proper sense of urgency on that drive if they're not aware of the ramifications of not scoring? So that's what sticks out to me. Now, on the other side, Andy Reid said he had a plan for overtime no matter how the coin toss went. And that, I guess, those are little differences between these two coaches. He says if we won the toss, if we lost the toss, if we received, if we didn't, there was a plan for everything. And yeah, that was like a huge thing that stood out to me about the game, along with Andy Reid. And we were just talking about this a minute ago, but there was some speculation that Andy Reid might walk away at the end of the season. Now, keep in mind, he's, I believe, 67 years old. So, you know, it's hard to walk away from something good, but at some point you're always thinking in the back of your mind, like, what's the perfect time to walk away? Especially when you see, you know, Bill Belichick outstays welcome, Mike Vrabel, Mike Tomlin kind of on the hot seat. Andy Reid's been doing this for a long time, winning back-to-back Super Bowls and leaving. I mean, that's how John Elway did it. There's something to be said for leaving at the right time, but the speculation is gone now because and it was funny because immediately following the game, they asked Andy Reid about it, and he said, "I haven't had time to think about it." That was his
like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he still didn't go like, "No, what are you talking about? I'm not retiring." And Chiefs owner CEO Clark Hunt, though, he said on Sunday night that Andy Reid's return was the expectation all along. So Reid, in rare territory as far as the coaches that he's a part of now, he's with Bill Belichick, Chuck Noll, Joe Gibbs, and Bill Walsh as the only coaches to win 3 or more Super Bowl rings. Winning 3 in a row would be quite the highlight. I mean, nobody's ever done it.
Yeah.
So what do you think about, and then we'll talk about the game a little bit, but I'm just curious, do you think the Chiefs, especially when they won it on a down year, we talked about it right when the Super Bowl ended, but of course they're going to get better, but also the AFC West is going to be better. You got Harbaugh in LA. You got Sean Payton going into his second year. You got Antonio Pierce, who the Raiders actually beat the Chiefs in the second match that they had this season.
And your Broncos too.
And the Broncos. So you really do have a tougher division, but I would assume the Chiefs are going to be a better football team, and that means they have a pretty good shot to win another Super Bowl. And being the first team ever in the Super Bowl era to win 3 Super Bowls in a row, is that crazy to you?
No. Give me the Chiefs for next year's Super Bowl, dude. Give me the Chiefs right now. I'm going for the 3-peat. Why not? Why not? They did this on a down year. They did this when Travis Kelce was not performing to Travis Kelce's own expectations. They did this when Jawan Taylor, one of their new offensive linemen, was under total scrutiny, was fucking up on the line, was getting a bunch of penalties, was under a ton of criticism. They're doing this where their number 1 wide receiver was Rashee Rice, a rookie, where you had Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, who scored a touchdown in last year's Super Bowl win. You had all these guys dropping passes. Pacheco was really, outside of Mahomes, was really one of the only bright spots for that offense. It was him and Mahomes, really. And then Rashee Rice, kind of midway through the season. And yes, their defense was great this year. Spags did an amazing job with their defense this year. So you could say that it was really their defense that led them to their second Super Bowl win. But really, it was a hard-fought game no matter what in this game. I mean, 25-22, that's a 3-point score. And it went into overtime. That's how you know this game was close and how you know it was good. But the Chiefs, man, they did it on an off year. The special teams was incredible as well in this game. I really don't think it's crazy to say that next season for the Super Bowl, Mahomes and the Chiefs can get their 4th in the last 5-6 years. Jeez. Because in 6 years that Mahomes has been the starter, he has been in all the AFC Championship games. 4 of those years, he has been in the Super Bowl. Like, won 3 of those. Like, you can't, there's no one better right now than him. And I'm saying all this to Kyle, who's a Broncos fan, with them in the same division. I just think, I just think it's hard to bet against the Chiefs, man. I just think it's hard to bet against the Chiefs. And Nick saying Matt Nagy has a ring now. Let that sink in. He had a ring last year, Nick. And if you go back to around last year, the Super Bowl time, I put up a short and I was like, Bears fans, this guy has a fucking Super Bowl ring. And I had Matt Nagy in the background of that video. So go check that out, because his second one, what am I supposed to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's got Melvin Gordon got a ring with the Chiefs last year.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It's unreal. I mean, it's so funny. They asked who was it? It was I think it was Mike Vrabel. It was a coach. Yeah, Yeah, I think it was Mike Vrabel when he was a player. Gosh, it feels like a guy like no, it was Dan Campbell. It was a guy like Mike Vrabel, but it's Dan Campbell.
Yeah.
So Dan Campbell, when he played for the Saints, he got injured, and he talked to Sean, and Sean was like, "Hey, go rehab in Texas for the year."
Yeah.
So because he did that, they went on to win the Super Bowl that year, and he didn't get a ring. And they asked him, like, "Do you regret it?" And he was like, "I mean, kind of, like, it would have been nice to get a ring, but at the same time, like, I didn't contribute to that team, so I don't know how much I really deserve one." But it's just funny sometimes how the least likely people get a ring, and then sometimes players will fight so hard their whole life, and like those players for the 49ers that every time that player left a team, they went on to win a Super Bowl without him. It's just sometimes people are insanely unlucky, but really Spags' defense, I agree with you that he not this year. I'm not sure why his name never came up for head coach candidates, but if the Chiefs have a really good defense next year, he's going to be a head coach candidate for one of the teams. And with Andy Reid entering, this will be his 26th season. He's fourth all time in regular season wins with 258. He's second all time in playoff wins with 26. The Chiefs head coach will look to get that third Super Bowl ring, and that will be in territory unlike any coach has ever done. So you look at Andy Reid, you look at Spags, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and you're right. Like, I'm not going to say it, but I'll quote you. Why not? Why there's no reason to bet against them. I mean, this was the year to do it, and look how it worked out. I mean, we disagreed on the last two Super Bowls, and you're just sticking with the Chiefs, like it was like the Broncos game where you're like, I'm not doing it until they beat the Chiefs. That's why it's in our intro.
Yeah.
Because, it's true. Like, there's
no reason happened.
to bet against a team that all they do is win. Mahomes was asked about this potential 3 Super Bowls in a row following. It was actually his first MVP news conference of the night. He said, I think 8 other teams have done it, talking about winning back-to-back. And he said, we heard about it all week. We talked to the guys about it, and we felt like we had the best opportunity that we've ever had to go out there and do that. Because remember, they fell short the year before.
Yeah.
So not last year, I guess the year before that, or the year before that, whatever. They lost to Tampa, and then they won the next year. So this was something that they were talking about in the locker room, about going out there and being one of those 8 teams. So he says all you can do is come back next year with a fresh mindset, knowing it's going to be even harder. We got to continue to play our best football. We'll celebrate these next few weeks, and then we'll get right back to it. But really, he was open about the opportunity to win 3 Super Bowls in a row and kind of separate himself from every other quarterback that's played in the National Football League. Do you think Mahomes has gotten to a point, though, where there's really nothing more that he could do for his life? I mean, we had these conversations about Brady, and every time Brady won, it was like, yeah, he's still separating himself somehow. And then he won his 7th with Tampa, and we were like, okay, there's not even a conversation anymore about it.
Yeah.
With Mahomes, is that what's next for him? Is it the next, if he wins that 3rd ring in a row, is he the greatest quarterback ever? Just period?
Ever. You still got to compete with Brady's 7, but if he does what has not been done, and that is the 3-peat, I mean, you are looking at something like 4 rings in 7 seasons as a starter, with 3 of them coming back to back to back. That is just impressive, man.
It's insane.
That's just insane to even fathom. I said it last night during our instant reactions of the Super Bowl. I was like, you talk to any NFLer any coach, any player, any scout, it's hard to get to the Super Bowl, one, and it's hard to win a Super Bowl. Two, imagine winning 2 in a row, even harder, and then you add a three-peat on top of that. That's impossible. That is impossible. It should not be done, and yet the Kansas City Chiefs find themselves in a situation like that. So I think Mahomes, in the path that he's going on, he's going to reach Brady at 7. He really is, especially if he does as much taking care of his body and focus like Brady had to
And he
play
does.
until he's 40. And he does. He shows it, right? Like he shows
Quarterback,
it week in, week
documentary.
out. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that too. Exactly. So I'm assuming there's going to be a second quarterback season too later.
Oh, I hope
this
so.
off season. That'd be cool because we could
sick.
watch it, talk about it. It'd be awesome. But yeah, man, if Mahomes is just doing the work, even half the work that Brady does, and he's already at this level in 6 seasons, I really can't see a world where he does not pass Brady by the time he retires. So is he going to be better than Brady? I mean, championships are obviously like one of those like measuring stick type of things where you look at the championships and you're like, well, he's got more than this guy and more than this guy and more yards and more touchdowns. So can he get there? I absolutely think so. I just think that also we have to look at things in terms of eras, right? Like Brady's era, Montana's era, the Mahomes era. Like we have to look at that stuff and look at the competition and look at how how football was being played in those certain times, because then that kind of becomes like a Jordan LeBron debate. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, LeBron lost all these finals. And it's like, why can't we just be okay with Jordan was the greatest in his era and one of the GOATs, then Kobe, then LeBron, and sprinkled in, you had a bunch of other superstars there with it. It's just Mahomes' time, man. It's Mahomes' time. And to be fair, like, you got to look at also, he lost to Brady. He lost to Brady in that Super Bowl. I mean, we could look at also the defense and you know, things like that, but hey, he lost to Brady. So at least Brady for his entirety of his career said, I got my 7th over your GOAT. You know what I mean? He can say that. He can say that.
And he was the first one to win in the same stadium that was hosting the Super Bowl. And then the Rams did it the next year. And it was like, wow, something that's never happened before was that Tampa was hosting the Super Bowl and the Bucks were the team that won it.
Yeah.
So, and another thing, Mahomes is 5th in postseason touchdown passes, and he passed Peyton Manning with this game. Yeah, 5th. I mean, you look at the guys he passed: Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, Kurt Warner, Terry Bradshaw, John Elway,
Jesus,
Cutler, Ben
probably,
Roethlisberger, right? Cutler. Cutler is nowhere on this
list. Rex Grossman?
No, none of those. But yeah, dude, he is continuing to just break all these records, and he was magnificent in that game. I mean, he single-handedly kept the Chiefs afloat when they were exchanging scores. I saw something that said there was it was like 4 or 5 lead changes in the second half, most ever in a Super Bowl game.
Yeah.
Because it was going back and forth. And then, of course, the game-winning drive, Mahomes was perfect. He went 8 for 8, 42 yards, 1 touchdown. He had 27 crucial yards, including that 4th down scramble. The Chiefs trailed the 49ers for 42 minutes and 5 seconds of the Super Bowl, which is the second most game time trailed by a victor in the game's history. Per NFL research. So Kansas City becomes the first team in Super Bowl history to win after trailing on 4 separate occasions in the game. I mean, you could just go stat for stat for stat. It's just incredible. I mean, that last drive by Mahomes was just absolutely insane. And the Chiefs are also only the 4th team in NFL history to win 3 Super Bowls in a 5-year stretch, and the 7th franchise to have 4 or more Lombardis. And Mahomes became the 3rd quarterback in NFL history to notch 15 plus playoff wins and just the
Jesus.
5th signal caller ever to win 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
All of those numbers are probably going to improve, especially with this Andy Reid news confirming he's coming back. So I think Mahomes absolutely is on pace to be in a league of his own. I think Tom Brady, you look at the things that separated him, it was like his preparation. But I think when you just look at the style and the way they play, I think you have a real case that Mahomes is special. He's got the backyard football stuff. Tom Brady didn't have that. I'm sure he could make a play, and he was one of the greatest competitors of any sport. I'm not trying to take anything away from Tom.
No,
but
not at all.
Mahomes plays the quarterback position differently, and it's almost like he has the best qualities of every type of quarterback. He's the gunslinger, but he's got the Peyton Manning awareness. He doesn't throw picks like Rodgers, but he can scramble like a Lamar Jackson-ish, right? So I just think we really just have never seen anything like it. He's one of one. And like you said, unfortunately, he's in our division. But moving off Mahomes, because I unless you wanted to say anything more about Mahomes.
No, we sucked this cock enough. We're good.
Okay. God, thank God.
Lily
in the house. So the 49ers.
Yes.
We could talk about Kyle Shanahan. We can talk about Brock Purdy. It really did feel like throughout that game, the 49ers were in good shape. There was never a moment in that game where you felt like the 49ers were out. And a lot of that had to do with just playing a low-scoring, close game. But there was also Christian McCaffrey on that opening drive. What did they have, 55 yards in the first 5 plays or something like that?
Let me look at it.
It was
the opening drive?
Yeah, their opening drive.
48 yards on 5 plays, 2 minutes, 45 seconds of possession before the fumble. Yeah. Almost 50.
We'll never know if CMC doesn't fumble that ball. Is there a different outcome in this game? But it's back to the drawing board for a team that, and we mentioned this yesterday, like it's one thing to lose the Super Bowl and go back to the drawing board. If the Chiefs lost this Super Bowl, they could go back to the drawing board and go, well, this is the worst offense we've ever had since Mahomes was our quarterback. We're going to draft some wide receiver talent. We're going to beef up our offensive line. We're taking too much sacks. There's tangible ways to get the results you're looking for. The 49ers are going to go back to the drawing board, and they were the most loaded roster. Like, what exactly are they supposed to fix? They're well coached. They're in the Super Bowl. So, I mean, you're not getting rid of Kyle Shanahan. No. You're not getting rid of Brock Purdy. The CMC is not, there's no replacement. You got the line is going to stay the line. Debo and Brandon Ayuk are still going to be the number 1 and number 2. George Kittle's still going to be the number 1. I just don't see what is going to kind of get them over this mountain, because it seems like if they couldn't do it this year, then especially not even just talking about the 49ers, but the matchup against the Chiefs that they were lucky enough to be in with a 15th ranked offense.
I froze.
Okay.
Sorry.
I was saying it's not even just the 49ers, but you look at the matchup, because sometimes a really good team makes it to the Super Bowl, but the other team was just a really good team too, like last year's Eagles and Chiefs. But this was a down year for the Chiefs. And if the 49ers can't knock the Chiefs down with that roster, when the Chiefs are having this kind of year, what are they supposed to go back to the drawing board and do? What is the adjustment? Like, what is this is the worst way to lose, in my opinion. And I'll always use this reference. Do you remember when LeBron had that game against Golden State, when Golden State was absolutely loaded? And I think it was his first year with Cleveland. And J.R. Smith didn't know how much time was on the clock.
Yeah.
Man, LeBron had like a triple-double. He had like 45, maybe 50 points in the game. Like, And he single-handedly had the team in the game, and then they ended up losing that game. And it was the same kind of feeling. Like, if you can't win when you have that kind of a night, it's so deflating. And the LeBron and the Cavs went on to be swept completely, and they didn't even play another game that close. And you talk about Dan Campbell saying it's hard to get back to this game, and I think a lot of that is just the amount of, I guess, how deflating it is to make it this far yet not get the reward. And how exactly is this team supposed to be hopeful when it might just, they might be thinking to themselves like, yeah, we're just not going to get that ring. And what do you think the 49ers are supposed to do right now? And do you feel like this is a team that should be back in the Super Bowl next year?
Hold on. Sorry, I keep freezing. What was the question? Sorry, can you repeat the question?
So do you think the 49ers can get back in this game next year? And do you think that this is going to be an issue within the locker room, like to try to stir up some motivation, like real fire, not like fake, like, yeah, I'm into it. But like, I really think that it's concerning how the 49ers lost, the way they lost, the year they lost with the team they had. It seems bad.
So I really have to, I have to look at the San Francisco 49ers roster, what the offseason is going to look like, who they are and aren't going to have. If you were to tell me this same team is coming back, like no issues, nothing, same coaching staff, you might lose a coordinator here or there. You might lose a second, third stringer type of guy here and there. I would say that the 49ers have a very solid shot at coming back. And I actually wanted to start with this question from Nick. What happens to the Niners? Honestly, do you start to question Shanahan? Let's look at the 49ers since 2019. Since 2019, they've been in the playoffs every season except for 2020 when they were missing Bosa, Debo, Jimmy G, Kittle, Richard Sherman when he was still in the league. They had everyone hurt. They ended the year with 18 players on injured reserve. Jeez. So every other year, so since 2019 till now, they've been in the playoffs. They have been one of the most consistent NFC teams in the last 5 years under Shanahan. So do you start to question Shanahan? I don't know. But we also, with a caveat on that, is what are you doing in the Super Bowl, dude? What is it about the Super Bowl that you just seem to fucking just like turn into Butterfingers with decisions? I will say I don't think he had any sort of like major bad decisions. I think really the only one you look at in this Super Bowl that you're kind of like, I don't know if I agree with that one, was receiving the ball in overtime. I get where he's coming from. I understand where he's coming from. Hey, if we go down and they score, or it's a 7-7 we each score, or a 3-3, whatever, I have confidence in my defense that we can hold them to at least 3 points if it really does come down to it. I would go with deferring if that were me. If I were the coach in a Super Bowl overtime, I would defer, because at least you know what you have to do when you get the ball back. At least you know, hey, they scored a touchdown. We have to score a touchdown. We're going to draw up a play, a script for a touchdown drive right here. Is it going to work? We'll see. But at least I know what I have to do. So really, Shanahan, and we talked about his timeouts too, in going into the halftime. His lack of using timeouts, sure, but we could be a little nitpicky with that. I'll hand up. I'll say I was a little nitpicky with that. But really, the only coaching decision that I think he fucked up on was the overtime one, and not running the damn ball too much in the third quarter. Those were really the only ones that to me made a difference enough in this game, but nothing huge. They got it. They went into overtime. This is how good this game was. This is how good defensively each team was playing and how good offensively each team was playing. So do you start to question Shanahan? I mean, you could, but just because you haven't won a Super Bowl and you've been in the playoffs the last 4 out of the 5 years, I really don't think it it's one of those, man, we got to get rid of Shanahan. No, it's not one of those like Nick Sirianni type of Philadelphia fan type of conversation. In my opinion, Shanahan is probably one of the better coaches in the NFL right now, probably top five. Honestly, if we're being honest with each other, right? Like he's probably his top five coach right now, outside of Andy Reid, obviously. But he's up there, man. So I don't think one of the questions for Shanahan should be, should we get rid of him? Again, going back to the team, right? Depending on what happens in the offseason, I still think the 49ers have a absolute great chance to get back to the Super Bowl next year. Depending on who stays and how Brock Purdy performs, all those variables that we can't, measure right now. Because they've been consistent. Like we have to remember again, outside of that 2020 season where everybody was fucking hurt, they've been in the playoffs and they've, executed in those games. It just does not seem to go their way, Kyle. Like it just doesn't, man. It's just one of those things where it just, again, he becomes Butterfingers in certain moments, or really when you look at this past Super Bowl, the Chiefs were just a better team. They were just a better team in overtime. And I don't think we're going to get too much push on saying something like that with Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. The Kansas City Chiefs just beat them. That's really the end of the story of the Super Bowl. They were just a little bit better. So I have confidence in Kyle Shanahan. I have confidence in John Lynch. I have confidence in this 49ers team that they can get back to the Super Bowl winning it. I don't know. Can they? Yes, absolutely. They had a really good shot in this game. But again, we have to see, because just like it's hard for the Kansas City Chiefs to win back-to-back Super Bowls, it's going to be harder again for the 49ers to get back in the Super Bowl. Yeah,
and there's been a lot. Another thing, we don't know if Brock Purdy is going to continue to get better.
Yep, exactly.
Brock could continue to get better. And I think while there's a lot of scrutiny right now about overtime and his decision, in truth, I don't really care about any of that. I think it probably shouldn't have even gotten to overtime, to be totally honest. Now, Shanahan said directly after the game that he had no general regrets about the game. I think there's always some regrets, at least about certain plays. But when he looks back, he's probably going to focus early in the third quarter when the 49ers had that 10-3 lead and then a 10-6 lead, and one quality scoring drive would have tilted the game in the 49ers' favor. Like, it's all it took. And instead, the 49ers offense imploded on 3 consecutive drives that went 3 and out, only taking 3 minutes and 26 seconds off the clock, and they lost 2 yards in all 3 of those drives.
Yeah.
That to me is that span, whatever happened to the 49ers in the third quarter, they really did just fall apart. They kind of had a similar third quarter like the Lions had in the NFC
just going to say that.
Yeah.
Just going to say that. Yeah.
And, Kansas City was struggling as well. And it felt like if the 49ers could have gotten a touchdown on any of those drives, it would have been a knockout blow to the Chiefs. But Shanahan, who's known for his innovative play calling, literally didn't deliver a single jab. There was nothing about the 49ers in the third quarter that made you feel confident. And going into the second half, we were like, the 49ers are really probably one more Christian McCaffrey touchdown or Brandon Ayuk or Debo away from this game being like a little, it's never out of reach for Mahomes, but it's really looking like the 49ers are going to win. And they just couldn't capitalize, even though the Chiefs weren't capitalizing on offense. Like those 3 opportunities, and they couldn't get it done. 8 of those 9 plays, Brock Purdy was throwing the football, essentially moving away from Christian McCaffrey, who is the best running back. He will be a Hall of Famer. You just can't do that. And then they asked Shanahan about it after the game. He said, we didn't get away from the run. He said,
bullshit.
Yeah. He said, Shanahan said in his defense, stating that the drives just stalled. We couldn't stay on the field. What are you talking about? What do you call that? If you throw it 8 times in 9 plays, you're away from the run. It's
Yeah.
like Christian McCaffrey finished the game with 22 rushes. He probably needed closer to 30 for the 49ers to have a good chance of winning this game. But I mean, there's no good way to lose the Super Bowl. Shanahan kept repeating that. He brushed off the fact that his team keeps losing double-digit leads, noting fairly that he's lost twice to Mahomes and once to Tom Brady. Those are, the GOATs. If you're going to lose to three people, those are the three that it's like, oh, that happens to everybody that plays Tom Brady and Mahomes.
not the worst.
Yeah, it's not like he's out here losing to, Rex Grossman.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he said it
just,
hurts, though.
I was going to say, and just to back you up on that, right? Like, for whatever Shanahan said that was bullshit. The third quarter started like this. Ready? 49ers get the punt from KC. Brock Purdy, pass incomplete short right. Penalty, false start. Purdy, pass incomplete short left. Purdy scrambles left, and then they have to punt it. The Chiefs punt the next drive. The next 49ers drive. Purdy, pass short right, 8 yards. Purdy, pass short left to McCaffrey, 7 yards. Purdy, pass incomplete deep left to George Kittle, punt. And then after that one, the Chiefs get a field goal, and then the 49ers get the ball back. McCaffrey up the middle, 20 for no gain. Purdy passing complete. Purdy passing complete. What do you mean you ran the ball? What do you mean? At what point in time did you run the ball? Because you ran the ball once in 3 drives, and they went nowhere.
Yeah, like if that's not getting away from the run, I don't know what is. And and it's crazy because that's exactly what they did in the Atlanta Patriots game. Mm-hmm. They were like, oh, we're going to keep our foot on the pedal here, which I understand that. But there's a certain kind of lead where you got to start thinking about the analytics a little more. All right. What's more valuable, to go up 35-3 or to take 7 minutes off the third quarter, right? Because you can never get more time. You can always get more points, but the time, and I just feel like he didn't weigh that out in that game, thought maybe he would learn going into this game. Hey, look at the first quarter. Christian McCaffrey played a huge role. Mahomes' impact was limited. The 49ers had the time of possession. They were on pace to win the football game, and they came out with a totally different identity than what they went into the game with. And yeah, it's just, like you said, it's going to suck. I mean, there's a lot of reasons they're going to say that they lost this game, and there's validness to them. I mean, I would say number one, Jake Moody's blocked extra point. Huge. That's there's no overtime if that happens. Yeah. And the Chiefs would have to end up going for 2. So that is a lot of people are going to talk about Shanahan, but there's other things also that happen. The 49ers offense in the third quarter, we talked about that. The
0 points,
the Dre Greenlaw injury. And
George Kittle was injured a little bit too. Debo. Yeah,
George Kittle went into the locker room, but NBC, one of the journalists from the Bay Area, said that Greenlaw suffered a serious Achilles tear. And
wow,
that was what a freak. All he did was jump because his team made a good play. He wasn't doing anything wrong or celebrate. Like sometimes you get those celebrating injuries. It wasn't anything like that.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, Greenlaw and Fred Warner were all over the field up to the point of that injury.
And Young.
And one of their toppest. You said Young?
Young in the first quarter, him and Bosa were all over Mahomes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Chase Young, yeah. And up to that point, at least for the linebackers, their top assignment was limiting Travis Kelce's impact in the game. And they did a damn good job of it because Kelce had 1 catch at the end of the first half. The Chiefs were targeting the middle of the field as soon as Greenlaw got out of the game. and Kelsey ended up with 9 catches, which was a game high, and he
Yep.
had 93 yards. Greenlaw, if he stays in the game, there's an awful strong possibility that Kelsey wouldn't have put up that kind of a stat line. I think the game outcome would have been different too. But, you know, they didn't have it. And then the last reason, the 49ers, they didn't have Christian McCaffrey as involved as they need to. Now, this is a great segue to, I guess, the next question. If you say that the reason the 49ers didn't win is because Christian McCaffrey needs 30 touches to win the game, indirectly, what are we saying about Brock Purdy?
Exactly.
What is Brock Purdy's role in all this? Because I'm not seeing the Wolves at the door for Brock. At least not in the way that I thought that it would have been had they lost this game when we talked about our predictions. I mean, Kansas City ranked 31st in the NFL defending against the rush. So even if it has nothing to do with Brock, the stats still tell you running the football was the key to victory for the 49ers. And they go away from that. But yeah, let's use this as a segue to kind of talk about Brock a little bit, because what is the overall, I guess, climate surrounding Brock Purdy following the Super Bowl loss? Because if you need to run the football 30 times to get a win, you're saying something, even if you're not saying something.
And this is exactly the question I was trying to ask yesterday, right? Like, why is it that we're looking at Christian McCaffrey's lack of usage, lack of running the ball in the third quarter? And, you know, why are we looking at that and being like, that's why they lost the game, when instead we should be looking at Purdy as like, why wasn't he enough? You know, he's the quarterback. He touches the ball. Why is it that Patrick Mahomes over here could throw it? He threw it 46 times, and we're like, yes, that's exactly what's supposed to happen for the Chiefs. Where on the other side, we're like, we need Christian McCaffrey to touch the fucking ball and run the ball up the middle or something. When in reality, we should be hyping up Brock Purdy for what he has accomplished so far, right? And again, I'm still like in my head, I'm like, how much of this does really go on Brock Purdy? You know, being the last pick, being a guy who is in his second year versus 6-seasoned vet Mahomes, who already has 2 Super Bowls under his belt. He's going to be compared regardless because he's in the NFL, right? But why are people not coming at Brock Purdy enough? Because he was the one who threw those passes incomplete. Maybe you could look at the receivers too for not catching some of those, but was it Purdy that wasn't making those, you know, passes catchable? Was it him throwing it to the wrong receiver? Was him not necessarily understanding the game plan? Maybe not executing the plays as well as he should have?
Or is just Mahomes that good?
And really, is Mahomes that good? And also, is Purdy just maybe not the guy right now? Maybe he's not there yet. It's his second season. It's his first full season, and he got to the Super Bowl. You know, now the conversations that we were having in the regular season of, is he just a guy that is, you know, has a stupid amount of talent around him, and they're really the answer to winning a Super Bowl here? But I still, in my head, I'm like, not everybody could do what Purdy did. But in the biggest game of the year, the last game of the year, it's like you have to be able to go into those moments and execute. But again, he's had a year and a half under his belt, and what he has accomplished is impressive. I don't think we should give him too much shit, but I still think there are some questions there. I 100% believe there are some questions there. We get into his third season, and how you mentioned earlier, like, how can he build off of this, right? Can he get better, right? That's what we're going to be looking for. That's what the 49ers and the 49ers fans are 100% going to be looking at as to whether or not he's going to be the guy for the future. How does he build off of this Super Bowl loss? Is he just as good as he was this last year, getting MVP votes in the middle of the season, or does he regress? And if he regresses, is it that bad where you want to get a quarterback in the offseason, or, maybe by the trade deadline or something, where you want to draft one next offseason? Those are the questions that he's got to answer. But I totally agree, man. Like, why do we have to give CMC the ball 30 fucking times? You got Brock Purdy, guy who's getting MVP votes. Sometimes it just the best team won, really. And Brock Purdy shrunk in those moments. And Lil Lee, the Chiefs offensive play calling coming out after halftime. I think the biggest turnaround, and I'll just mention this, Kyle, if you want to go back to Brock Purdy, don't, like, all good. But the biggest turnaround was that muffed punt, not necessarily on McLeod, but going off of his blocker's foot. And that just turned the entire thing around. But yeah.
Yeah. And also, you got to give Moody some credit, because that 55-yard field goal,
yes,
you're starting to see like how important that was. And if he missed that at that point in the game, it wouldn't have felt like a big deal. But him making it, man, I mean, that was pretty clutch. But
for a rookie.
I guess the last thing I'll say about this whole thing with Brock Purdy is that I think sometimes people are looking for answers naturally, and they want to know, like, yes or no. But I really think when it comes to Brock Purdy, this is a multivariate equation, and there's many things that affect this, and it's hard to say what is Brock and what's not. And starting with the fact that Christian McCaffrey was on this team along the same timeline that he took over.
Yep.
And because we love to say, well, why wasn't Jimmy Garoppolo this good? Why wasn't this guy this good? I feel pretty good about if Jimmy Garoppolo had CMC, that, he could have been in this game. I just don't see a major difference when I'm watching the two of them play. But, that's kind of how things are. Like, you just say, well, forget about the CMC. Brock Purdy's won all these games, and people don't take into account all of the factors at play here. Yeah. And Brock Purdy's young, and I think he played a solid game overall. The offensive line did a great job. Brock Purdy didn't take a single sack in this game. He was 23 for 38, 255 yards. He had a touchdown. He didn't throw a pick. He rushed a couple times for 12 yards. He was Brock Purdy. And we said going into the game that this was going to be the albeit for the haters or the people that support him. Either way, everybody's going to come away from answers. And somehow the game was just good enough for all of the people that thought he was great to kind of chill out a little bit. And he was just bad enough for all the people that don't think he's good to kind of continue the narrative.
Yes.
Meaning, like, nothing happened. There's no progress. We are exactly where we left off when it comes to Brock Purdy. Do you feel that way too?
I can totally see that. Like, even going through Twitter, X, the conversations that I already know that are going to take place in the offseason. Like you said, there's going to be people saying, no, he's good. He got us the Super Bowl. It was his first full season. If he hadn't broken his goddamn entire arm last season in the NFC Championship, maybe we're in the Super Bowl for a second time. Maybe we give the Chiefs a run for their money last year. And then you got the people on the other side going, yeah, run the ball, CMC. What happened to Purdy? Why Purdy? Purdy fucked up. He's not a franchise quarterback. It's never that simple. Nothing is ever that simple as to say, because of this, and because of this. It just never is, man. Again, we look at the entire product that the 49ers have been putting out, ever since Purdy was the starter. And I would want that. I know I would absolutely want that on my team, knowing that I have playmakers, knowing that I have a quarterback who was the last pick, who was undefeated for his first 13 or whatever starts, and was able to get to the Super Bowl. Dude, I would want that. And for people to kind of look at this and be like, oh, Purdy's going in the wrong direction. He's not a franchise quarterback. Again, it's not that simple, guys. I think we have to continue to give it time. He has proven quite a bit in his year and a half as a starter. And it's almost similar to like what's happening in Philly about talking about Nick Sirianni. Get rid of him. He's not a good coach. He's this, he's that. It's like, you guys really are spoiled. And yes, it's good to have standards. It's good to have expectations. But again, it's so hard to get to the Super Bowl. The Chiefs just make it look easy, but it's difficult as fuck. You know, the Chiefs lose another 2 games this season. Who the fuck knows where they're at? Do the Broncos go on to win the division if they win 2 other games? Do the Chiefs have a tougher matchup in the playoffs if, I don't know, the Bills lose that game against Miami in week 18 and Miami's actually the division leader and they go up against the Bills, whatever the case may be, right? Like, there's so much shit that goes into it. It's never black and white. Even though Kyle and I say shit is black and white, it is never black and white. But it's always so entertaining to talk about.
Yeah, and look at even though we only do football here, real quick, the Bucks firing Adrian Griffin, and there was a ton of people that didn't understand it, and I did in a way because I didn't understand it, but I get it. Like, think about it. If you are in the building and you understand just how good your team is, it doesn't all of a sudden matter where you go or what you do. All that matters is winning a Super Bowl. If you had the ability to build a team and you would be the head coach and you built a Pro Bowl roster and you made it to the Super Bowl and lost and you had the best team, yes, that's a code that kind of points to a coaching issue. So people didn't understand, why would you fire Adrian Griffin? The Bucks just won a championship. And it's like, well, our standard's different. Our standard doesn't, we're not trying to get to this game. And I think that is one of the factors that makes the 49ers just impossible to figure out, because you got all the haters saying if they had any other quarterback, they could win the Super Bowl easily. Like, I saw what Brock Purdy did all season, and he got that team to the Super Bowl. But there are a lot of people that feel like with the roster the way it is, if they were to upgrade at that position, say get a guy like Justin Fields or, somebody from the draft, maybe like a Dak Prescott. If something like that happened, all of a sudden the 49ers would be Super Bowl favorites immediately. And I don't think yet Brock Purdy's even in the category yet of like maybe some of those kind of guys. But it felt like during the season when they were winning, we would have said, no, I'll take Brock over Dak. Dak doesn't do good in the playoffs.
Exactly.
So you don't want to overreact to these things, but I think what makes it so tricky is just how loaded the 49ers are, because it almost feels like when you put a roster like that together and don't win a Super Bowl, the quarterback position wasn't good enough, the head coach wasn't good enough, and that's pretty much the big two, right? They always will take the blunt of the blame when it comes to these things, and I think for the 49ers, it's going to be tough, but George Kittle, you said it. George Kittle needed to get off the bus.
He did.
Kittle's name wasn't called on much at all during the game. He had 3 targets in the game. He caught 2 of them. He had 4 yards. I mean, you just can't have a game like that. That can't happen. George Kittle is one of the best tight ends in football. I understand that he makes a big impact as a blocker, but that's all he did in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And there's this whole other part of his game that feels untapped. So I don't know if that was part of the game plan or if they were just so focused on shutting down George Kittle. But my thinking is, if defenses wanted to focus on Kittle, you have Ayuk and you also have Debo. So like as a quarterback, if imagine Tom Brady or Manning or any of these good quarterbacks, it's like, you want to take him out? Okay. You want to take out Dallas Clark? We'll throw it to Reggie Wayne. You want to take Reggie Wayne out? We got Marvin Harrison.
Yep.
Like, whatever you do, we got an answer for. It didn't feel like that in this game. They took Kittle out, and you could feel it, and nobody kind of rose to the occasion. It wasn't Brandon Ayuk. And then even on that third down, when you were doing the play-by-play in the third quarter, that pass to Kittle, he's like 50 yards downfield, running down the sideline. Like, what are you doing, dude?
That's not what Kittle does.
Yeah, it's like karaoke night, and you're going way outside of your genre. You gotta sing to the lyrics, to the music that you know.
You're trying to hit those Mariah Carey notes.
Yeah, like, dude, come on. Put 3 doors down on and go out there and save tonight or whatever.
Throw on tequila. It's got 2 words. That's where you're at. No, and you're 100% correct, man, because the entire time I was like, this is why I said George Kittle needed to be a factor. All the talk he was saying about wanting to score a touchdown, about how he enjoys this, about the last time he was in the Super Bowl saying, I'm going to be back. I'm going to be back. Like, none of it showed up. None of it showed up. And really, it's not just on Kittle. You mentioned a ton of names there. Brandon Ayuk, only 3 catches. Deebo Samuel, only 3 catches. Juszczyk had a really big catch for first down. And then Jennings, like, if the 49ers had won this game, Jennings threw and caught a touchdown. How is that not MVP? How is that not MVP, right? Like, how is that not the MVP right there? It's just,
well, CMC would have needed to run more if they were going to win, and then he would have got another touchdown, and he would have probably won it.
Exactly. And then, Kittle, 2 catches, 4 yards. No.
No.
What did
Absolutely
I say?
Not.
Absolutely not. What did I say? I was like 4 I said 2 catches for 14 yards or 3 catches for 14 yards against the Lions. Can't do that. You have to have that 4 catch, 81-yard touchdown performance you had against the Packers the week prior. That's the type of performance Kittle has to have, because you saw in the second half what happened when Mahomes was going to Kelsey 8 times, 9 times. Like, the entire offense opened up for Rashee Rice, for Pacheco, for fucking Mahomes to rush it for 60-plus yards. Marquez Valdes-Scantling had a ridiculous touchdown. It's just, that is who you had to lean on in that situation for Brock Purdy and really the offense of the 49ers. And he was nowhere to be found. George Kittle did not get off the fucking bus for the Super Bowl. Sorry.
No, and I think with Brock Purdy, like, there was a chance going into the game where he was just going to shit the bed because he's never been in a game like this. I don't feel like that happened. Like, I kind of come away from the Super Bowl feeling like Brock Purdy could win a Super Bowl. He could be the guy. He just needs to get a little bit better. But the 49ers decide not to run the ball. The offensive line, I mean, how many times was he running for his life? Like, the fact that he wasn't sacked, I said credit to the O-line. No, credit to Brock Purdy, because Brock Purdy either got rid of the ball or stepped up into the pocket, bought time. He was the reason that he didn't, so you got to look at that. And I said those 2 fumbles, right? That you can't have that. And those turnovers had nothing to do with Brock Purdy. I think, and then you look at the defense after the Greenlaw injury totally falling apart. They couldn't stop anything as soon as that happened. So I think Brock Purdy, if those guys don't fumble the ball, if they stick with their game plan and they don't lose their starting linebacker, the 49ers win and Brock Purdy's a Super Bowl MVP, and we don't have to have a conversation about it. So I don't want to overreact, because Brock Purdy could have gone out there and he could have thrown 3 picks. He could have had a Dak Prescott against the Packers game. And he didn't. He was out there and he managed the game, and he almost managed the game to a victory, but I think he was let down by the play calling, his coaches, and his defense. So, that's pretty much all I got on this one. I think it was a great Super Bowl overall. It was freaking historical with the lead changes in the fourth quarter, and I mean, we got free football on the last game of the year.
It's awesome. And I just, going back to your Purdy point, like, this is why we say, like, the Brock Purdy discussion, the debate, it's not black and white. you got to look at the entire thing. The Kansas City Chiefs had not scored a touchdown until the third quarter when that muff punt happened. First play after that muff punt was a touchdown pass.
Yeah.
And that's when the Kansas City Chiefs scored. The 49ers, you know, they fair catch that or it goes out of bounds or whatever happens. We're looking at an entirely different game. Well, CMC doesn't fumble on the first drive. We're looking at an entirely different game. Pacheco doesn't, you know, fumble it in the red zone either. We're looking at an entirely different game, right? So we got to look at all the things that happened, all the dominoes that fell, and really be able to try to make a fair assessment on what happened. Don't get me wrong. I love to jump to conclusions because of emotions like anyone else. But the next day I'm like, look, you know, this is why. But I can
maybe
again,
it's me. I'm the problem.
Maybe,
it's me.
Is it? Hey,
I'm the problem.
Hi,
it's me.
I'm the problem. It's me. I'm the problem. It's me. And we had 13 Taylor sightings, the most important stat of the night. Taylor Swift 13 times. Oh my God.
Well, we'll do a whole State of the Union. You know, we made a lot of kind of broad statements in this, but I think looking back on it in a month, one of the statements was, how do the 49ers improve? We'll be able to break that down. I think it starts with their secondary. If their first three picks got to be defensive tackle, safety, and then maybe a running back. But keep in mind, when Trent Williams went down, we found out that he's the most valuable left tackle that I've ever seen. Yeah. And he's probably going to leave the 49ers. You know, they're going to get caught with their pants down probably 2025 when he retires. Mm-hmm. So it really it's next year. It does feel like you're going to have to, like that chalkboard at the end of the season when the names come down, you're going to have to take some names off, but it's not like the end of Friday Night Lights where everybody's coming off. You still are going to have a lot of your key players. So yeah, they're still in a window, and Brock Purdy, he gets the experience. I mean, that's priceless to go into this game. Invaluable. Yeah. So I think if you're a 49ers fan, like, yeah, you're bummed out that you lost, but just keep in mind, it's not like when we won Super Bowl 50 and Manning retired, there was like no hope for the next season. It's like, oh, it's over. Like the 49ers are still in a process. They're in a window. Nothing is coming to an end. Nick Bosa isn't going anywhere. They can all learn from this game, including Kyle Shanahan, and come back next year and have a very similar type season. And I would be shocked if they're not at a minimum in the NFC Championship next year.
Yeah, and like you said, Kyle, like really at the end of it, that was an extremely exciting, great Super Bowl. You know, we look back at some terrible ones like the Rams Patriots, the one last year where you get where the call at the end of it kind of, you know, pretty much guided the game to where it went, right? The holding. But this game, it was great.
The refs did good.
The refs did really well. Actually,
credit to the
refs.
Yeah.
Credit to the refs. Credit to the refs.
There's not even one call. And you know what's funny? They still think it's rigged. There's still people out there that are like, I'm never watching again. It's like, you don't have to announce. We don't care. Like, why are you telling us that you're not watching anymore? We don't know you and we don't like you. Get out of here. Like, if you don't like football, then like, I don't like watch content that I'm not interested in just to go in and tell them I'm not interested. Wouldn't that be weird? Wouldn't that be weird to like,
what a life you have?
Go to some event that I don't like just to be like, it's not really my thing. Hey, I don't like the orchestra.
I don't like this.
Why'd you drive here? Why'd you pay for a ticket?
Just the entire time like this.
I just want you guys to all know that I don't like this music. Get this guy out of here.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so dumb. And okay. You got anything else on the Super Bowl?
No, again, just credit to the refs. The calls that they had were like holding false starts, nothing insane where we were like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck was that call like last year's and things like that. So credit to them. Great Super Bowl all around. Again, just great Super Bowl all around. I didn't notice the Rick hit hat year was a ref. What the hell did you say, Nick? I didn't notice that Rick hit year. The refing was great.
Line
Referring
it
is
up.
like you have to sign to do your job. Nobody notices. I'm gonna go and say I agree, Nick. But yes, Kyle, that's all I got. That's all I got.
All right. Well, the 49ers, one piece that is going to be gone is going to be their passing game coordinator, Clint Kubiak, who's reached a deal with the Saints. He's become their new offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Reported by Ian Rappaport today. And Tom Pelissero reported yesterday that Kubiak and the Saints were expected to finalize a deal. So this kind of lines up. But this is a major thing for the Saints right now, because not only do the Saints have their next offensive coordinator, but they've also been open about Kubiak's been their top target all along. And Kubiak was highly favored by many teams. It wasn't just the Saints. So the Saints were able to get a guy where if he would have went somewhere else, they would have been like, we don't really have any more options. You know, there's not a lot of good names floating around. Maybe Eric Bieniemy. I don't know if he would be interested, but the Saints don't have to ask that question because they come to an agreement with the Saints, and Kubiak is a really good coach. He's got roots all over the league. He's been around, comes from a family. Of course, Gary Kubiak, Super Bowl champion, only guy to ever win 3 Super Bowls as a player, as an assistant coach, and as a head coach. But the Saints, as far as the coaching staff, they're kind of going through a major transition right now because they moved off of their coordinator, Pete Carmichael. The Saints also parted ways with several positional coaches. The list includes wide receivers coach Cody Burns, offensive line coach Doug Marrone, senior offensive assistant Bob Bicknell. They lost their quarterback coach and passing game coordinator Ronald Curry to the Bills. Running back coach Joel Thomas to the New York Giants. Shout out, Bill. And the offense assistant DJ Williams to their rival, the Atlanta Falcons. Kevin Carberry, who was the team's offensive line assistant, is also headed to Tampa Bay. So,
oh my God.
Yeah. So there's kind of a major major construction going on right now with the Saints, but Dennis Allen is still the head coach somehow.
I was going to say, you're going to do this major turnover and Dennis Allen is still your head coach? It's wild. That's wild to me.
Yeah, it's insane. But they did identify their favorite candidate for offensive line coach, John Benton, who is a longtime coach that has a ton of experience working with the Kyle Shanahan system. Additionally, the team's expected to also add former Vikings and Bears quarterbacks coach Andrew Janako to work with starting signal caller Derek Carr. So the remaining hires are going to trickle through in good time, but the most important move is now official with the anxiety of not getting their guy ruled out. It's all business. New Orleans is looking to build the rest of their staff up. How much do you think that this hire, I guess, means to the Saints? Because I guess the idea is they're going to roll with Derek Carr, and it feels like Derek Carr just hasn't been relevant in a while. But do you think that there's something untapped that maybe Kubiak can get Derek Carr to play at a level that looks like the guy that made the Saints accept that deal? Because that was a big contract that they signed him to. He's not going anywhere. So there is a little bit of like, okay, so Derek Carr's going to stay. Dennis Allen's going to stay. How are we supposed to get better? Well, everything else is, I guess, changing. It's an interesting approach, but do you think that this is a good day for Saints fans?
I think so. With the amount of turnover the Saints are doing right now, and really what the product was on the field last season, you are looking at something like this. You're kind of sad, in my opinion, and you're kind of just a little bit upset that Dennis Allen is still your head coach with all the turnover that's happening. But
It's like you with the Bears.
Exactly. You got to be happy about the changes that they're making for, like, again, the offensive coordinator, how they're getting position coaches in, getting guys that have experience, but that come from these coaching trees that we have been talking about for a while now, right? So you do get some excitement off of that, because really part of this entire Kubiak coming from the passing game under the Shanahan tree as your offensive coordinator, even though it sucks to lose a coordinator, wouldn't you rather have a coordinator on your team that in 2 seasons, a team's like, we got to get that guy as a head coach? Like it makes your team better. It sucks because you lose them, but at least your team is one of those teams that's, one, moving in the right direction, and two, is clearly making a mark in the NFL with what they're doing, within their specific job. So Clint Kubiak coming from the Shanahan tree, what he has done with Brock Purdy too, like, again, MVP votes just this past season. Now, can that translate into an entirely new job? You move up. This is what coaches want to do. They want to move up. They want to prove themselves. Can you make it as an offensive coordinator? And can, more importantly, because you have aspirations, can you go from an offensive coordinator to an aspiring head coach in 2-3 seasons, depending on how well you do with, like, Derek Carr and the entire offense really as a whole? Alvin Kamara, what's the wide receiver's name?
Michael Thomas?
No, the other guy, the Olave,
Chris
right?
Olave, yeah.
Yeah, what can you do with these guys? So as a Saints fan, again, you're kind of just like disappointed, really is the word, that Dennis Allen is still your head coach. Again, you mentioned me with the Bears and Eberflus, 100%. I feel like that situation is the same, but you do have to be somewhat hopeful with the moves they're making at those very, very integral positions as offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach, pass play coordinator, things like that. So, and again, the whole Derek Carr thing, he sucked. Like, it's fair to say that he sucked this past season. There was some games where he looked really good. And I still think Derek Carr is probably top half quarterbacks in the league right now. But you're hopeful that with this guy coming in, that you can kind of turn that Derek Carr, you can kind of turn a new leaf with Derek Carr coming up.
And one thing that I don't think both of us have said that's really probably the X factor in all this is, remember when Harbaugh hired Seattle hired that coach because he worked with Harbaugh, both John and Jim?
McDonald. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe a lot of this has to do with not only Clint coming from the Kubiak family and, coming from coaching and stuff, but he's just been with Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan's one of the great offensive guys in the league. So Kubiak potentially is a rising star, and they were able to buy low on him, and he's going to come in, and he wasn't calling the plays in San Francisco. So it's good for him. He's going to get an opportunity to maybe exercise all the stuff that he's been learning since he started coaching. But I think that's part of it too, is when you go to a Super Bowl, you want to get people in your building that have been to that game, and those guys that have been seeing these coaches and how they operate. And okay, because the Saints, they're dog shit right now. So hey, let's bring in.
That was great.
Let's bring in someone that's not dog shit, and maybe he can make us all not dog shit. That's
he makes fast guys look not fast.
Not so fast. Yeah. So him being with Kyle Shanahan, I think, is going to be big. And if he does well with the Saints, like, this is a guy that could be a head coach in 4 years. You just never know when you get somebody, and all you can do is look at who they've been with. And if history serves us right, he's probably going to be trending in a good direction because of who he's hung out with.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Those coaching trees, man, I tell you, man, like those things are legit. I mean, you see Mike McDaniel, you see Robert Salah, all coming from Kyle Shanahan. So, I mean, they're not doing great. Mike McDaniel, probably the more successful one. But again, these coaching trees are a real thing.
Yeah. And we do have some more NFL news to cover, including your boy, your one and only, Mitch Trubisky, who is going to be no longer a Steeler. And Mitch Trubisky, I guess you could say the Mitch Trubisky experiment ran its course in Pittsburgh. They decided to mutually part ways. Trubisky's only 29 years old. He was set to earn $4.25 million this coming season. With bonuses, the cap hit would have been $7.5 million or 3% of the team's salary cap. 2017 second overall NFL pick, highly recruited out of North Carolina. He played mistake. He played in 12 games since signing with the Steelers as a free agent in 2022, and in 7 starts, he had a 2-5 record, 84 yards, 8 touchdowns, but 10 interceptions. And we can talk about Trubisky a little bit, but with the Trubisky era coming to an end, the Steelers are now tasked with finding a replacement to back up Kenny Pickett, or Kenny Pickett is going to go into a development role in kind of a reserve role. And there's going to be another quarterback coming in. Could it be a Russell Wilson? Could it be somebody like a Justin Fields? We'll find out. But what's your takeaway from Mitch Trubisky kind of being gone? It was premature. He's still under contract. They say it was mutual. I think, does Trubisky think that he's going to go start somewhere? Because sometimes they say it's mutual you didn't get fired. It was mutual. It's just like, let people leave with dignity. It was like when Jim Harbaugh was fired, but they said that it was mutual. And Harbaugh was like, no, they fired me.
Exactly.
So what do you think about all this?
I definitely don't think he's going to start anywhere. And if he does, you're looking at some place that maybe as a rookie quarterback that they are not necessarily comfortable with starting off the get-go, right? Maybe you're looking at a sort of rebuilding year with another team. I mean, the first team that came to mind is like a team like the Patriots, a team like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of another team, but at this moment I can't. But a team that kind of is in that same sort of position where they either have a rookie quarterback that don't want to start off the rip, or they're in some sort of bridge year, right? Where they know they don't really have any weapons. They are unloading people off because to free up some cap space. They're gonna really work the draft, and maybe Mitch can kind of come in and do some sort of like 1-year deal, similar to like what we're seeing Baker was with the Tampa Bay Bucks, similar to what we thought was going to happen there, right? So if Mitch is going to start, it's going to definitely be on a team like that. If he goes anywhere else, he is going to be a backup, and you can't get better than a number 2 overall pick as a backup, really, right? He didn't do too much this season as the backup for Kenny Pickett. I mean, he got booed, and it was really sad to see. Like, I still love Mitch as a person. He seems to be a really good guy. He's just not a number 2 overall pick for a quarterback. He wasn't, and he got booed, and it sucked. But the Steelers, like you said, that mutually parting ways, it's really just kind of being like at a job, being like, hey, I got you on a reference letter if you need. You know what I mean? Like, we got you. It's really just protecting your guy who came in and did his job. And like you said, he's still under contract and there's a mutual parting of ways there or whatever. They just want to kind of back him up. So is he going to start anywhere? It's got to be a really in the dumps type of organization again, or in a bridge year type of thing. But other than that, he's going to be a backup somewhere, and he's going to make his money, dude. He's going to make his money. So good for him if he makes that good money as a backup, because that's kind of where he's at, unless he has some sort of Tannehill resurgence in like 5 years.
What I think the more concerning thing is if you're a Steelers fan, it's not necessarily losing Trubisky, but Mason Rudolph has indicated he's interested in a fresh start after
Yeah.
6 seasons with the Steelers. And you would think, well, Mitch knows he's not going to go start, so he's going to be a backup. So same thing with Rudolph. So two people that are in a situation where they're backups would rather go be a backup in a different place.
Yeah.
That to me says a lot about what's been going on with was it Matt Canada?
Matt Canada, yeah, the offense coordinator.
Matt Canada, this offense, when the season ends and the backups would rather go back up somewhere else. And now the only quarterback even on the roster is the one guy that can't say how he feels because he's the starter, right? He's not going to fuck that up. Like, he's not going to come out and be like, yeah, I want out. You're a starting quarterback. You're
the guy. You're the guy, dude.
You're the guy. So, I mean, I think there's something to be said for all of the quarterback room bouncing. All right. And do you feel that way a little bit?
I do, man. And this was actually something that I remember mentioning sort of not maybe in the middle of the season, but maybe towards the end after Matt Canada, I think got fired or let go, whatever you want to call it, because what's happening in that locker room, like you see a lot of these guys wanting to leave. You see bona fide stars leaving Pittsburgh. And is it the head coach's fault? I'm forgetting his name. I'm spacing on his name right
Tomlin?
now. Is it Tomlin's fault? Is it the organization from maybe like a GM ownership front office type of standpoint? Like, what are these guys experiencing there in Pittsburgh that Mitch Trubisky wants to go somewhere else? Mason Rudolph, in a sense, proved his worth the last few games and even that playoff game, what he's worth, and why does he want to leave somewhere else so bad? Again, those questions start to arise because of all of what's kind of happened, what the trend has been in Pittsburgh. Again, Antonio Brown leaves, Le'Veon Bell leaves. Like, you got people unhappy in the building. Matt Canada was held on for way too long, almost 3-4 seasons or so. And those decisions aren't made very quickly. You are above 500, but you're never an elite team at the end of the season. And again, credit to Tomlin for being able to win a Super Bowl, but it's been a fucking long time since you've been at that level. And yes, you lost Roethlisberger, which is your franchise QB for 20 years or whatever. But still, man, it's like, what moves are you making where you're making Pittsburgh a desirable place to go to, or a desirable place to stay since you're there? So I think the questions are valid, dude. I think the questions are absolutely valid. It's like, what is going on with Tomlin? Or again, what is going on with above Tomlin, where Tomlin maybe has his hands tied? You know, there's a ton of questions to ask, and nothing has really come to light. So I think the questions are valid. It's just, I think it's going to be a matter of time as to what are the answers to those questions.
Yeah, because the Steelers definitely had a better roster than their record. And you look at even Sean McVay, right? We're going to buy out to win a Super Bowl. And then last year it was like, okay, like, yeah, we're reaping what we sowed. This is what the price is to win a Super Bowl. And then 1 year later, it's like, the Rams are back in the playoffs. What is it about the Steelers? I mean, even the 49ers, like, you look at their draft picks, they're outstanding. Like, these Sean McVays, Kyle Shanahan's, Andy Reid. There's just, I know that it's not Mike Tomlin's fault. It can't be, but at some point, there's something going on with mediocrity within this organization. Like, they're not bad, but they're definitely not good. And I just don't know if Kenny Pickett is going to be the guy to, take them off moving forward. Like, watch out, Kenny Pickett. It's just, I just don't feel that way about Kenny Pickett. But Mike Tomlin did say that Kenny Pickett would B, he wants him to compete for the quarterback position
Mhm.
next year. So we'll see. I mean, Pittsburgh would be forced to add 2 quarterbacks, either free agency or the draft. But it's going to be, I really think that the Steelers are going to target a free agent. I don't think they're going in with Kenny Pickett next year. I'm not buying it right now.
And that's one of the questions that Bill right here is asking. The Steelers don't make too many moves, do they? And historically they do not. They really do not. And this is why, kind of going with what you're saying, like I feel like this offseason is going to be pretty crucial as to why is Mason Rudolph leaving? Why is Mitch Trubisky leaving? These guys don't have many prospects going into free agency.
Yeah.
Again, Mason Rudolph was able to do something the last few games and able to again prove his skill and how good he can be at quarterback. But Mason Rudolph isn't a name in free agency. You're looking at like we're circling that guy. He's on the top of our list, nor Mitch Trubisky. So it's crucial for them, I think, like you said, to make a possible big splash during the offseason because, I mean, what else is going on in Pittsburgh other than, maybe Kenny Pickett's the guy and you got Deontay Johnson and you got George Pickens and you got this double-headed monster of running backs, right? Like, so what else are you doing? Because this is clearly not working. So again,
Right.
what are the problems and can we identify them before the start of next season? That's really it.
And you look at what Najee Harris said in the locker room too, when he was like, does it feel like the defense knows what you guys are running? And he was like, at times it does. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a young player. And like this year, he could exercise, or the Steelers could exercise his 5th-year option. His 5th-year option, I just pulled it up. It would cost Steelers $6.6 million.
Wow.
But there's a lot of notable names: Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Waddle, Penei Sewell, J.C. Horn, Surtain, Devontae Smith, Fields, Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Mac Jones.
Wow.
Mac Jones.
Wow.
Kadarius Toney.
Wow.
But yeah, Najee Harris is on the list too. So it almost feels like the Steelers are headed towards a total rebuild, whether they acknowledge it or not. I mean, that's how it feels a little bit. But yeah, we'll definitely get more into that as the offseason progresses. But there was something I was excited to chat with you about, and that
is where this is going.
All right, so they had who was it? It's the writer. His name is Chad Rudder. He's a writer for NFL.com, and he was making a storyline about the NFL draft coming up. And as always, quarterbacks will once again be the story of the 2024 draft, but it's not just the prospects coming into the league that are going to make all the headlines. He's expecting 2 veteran signal callers, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, of all 2.
Always connected.
To be on the move, which will significantly impact the league's annual selection meeting coming up. And in Chad's 3-round mock draft, he projects that the Bears will decide to move on from Fields and select USC's quarterback Caleb Williams with the first overall pick. And maybe even more surprising, Chad believes that the Bears will then send Fields to New England. The Patriots would swap first rounds with Chicago this year, and they would also give up a 2024 4th-round pick and a conditional 25, similar to the Packers and Jets deal with Aaron Rodgers. But then they have the Bears using that swapped draft pick to get Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's pretty crazy to get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. And he's also predicting that the Broncos will part with Wilson before next season starts, with Atlanta signing the veteran after his release. The contract extension signed by Wilson before the 2022 season started will prevent a trade, and he also has a no trade clause. So Denver's going to end up either running it back with him, which seems very unlikely,
Very low, yeah.
or just completely releasing him. But what do you think about the Bears drafting Caleb Williams versus kind of running it with Fields? Because that's a whole ass draft pick. Imagine you use that first round draft pick and you get whatever the best offensive lineman in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also are able to get like Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're the Bears fan, but there's just a part of me that feels like the Bears are so close to getting there. Like this whole rebuild, this is a years process, 3-4 year process. And they're finally at a point where one more great draft could get the Bears into the playoffs as one of the better teams in the league. And you go, fuck it, let's draft a new quarterback. Let's fucking start it all over. Caleb Williams is going to be our guy. And I just don't know. Like there's a part of that feels like, hey, the grass isn't greener on the other side. It's greener where you water it. Invest in Justin Fields and you'll have a beautiful lawn. But you got to make some risks in the National Football League, and Caleb Williams is probably on the safer side of the available quarterbacks in the draft. What's your like gut reaction when you hear this stuff? Like, does it excite you? Do you feel bad for Justin Fields? And if you were the controlling owner, what would be the move?
Oh God. Oh man. I don't even know. Real quick before I start into that, Bill's asking, Caleb already said he wouldn't want to go to the Bears, didn't he? No, there's been a lot of conflicting reports. Like his camp said it, but then fake. The sources are fake and like not even reliable. So I wouldn't really put too much thought into that at all. Into
don't put any
rumors. Yeah, don't put any of that. Dude, at the end of the day, man, as a fan, I am excited. I am very excited for a possibility of Caleb Williams being the quarterback, because let's look at, the last two Super Bowls have been Patrick Mahomes being the winner. The one before that was Matthew Stafford and Joe Burrow going at it, right? The one before that, you're looking at 2020. That was the
Chiefs
in
Tampa Bay.
Chiefs in Tampa Bay.
2020, right?
Yeah, wasn't that
COVID?
Yeah, and then it was like the Patriots before that.
Yeah, all Patriots and Rams.
Yeah, all these quarterbacks, man. It's just like there just seems to be a theme here, and it's like, can they be athletic? Yes. Can they be Lamar Jackson? Can they be Michael Vick types? Can they be Justin Field types? That just does not seem to be the winning formula right now. The winning formula right now is talent, getting the ball off quick, making sure you're able to make the reads, making sure you're able to make adjustments at the line, having that football IQ, and really at the end of it all, working as fucking hard as Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes apparently do. They are winners, man. They are absolute fucking studs at the quarterback position. That's what you really want to get. I loved when they picked up Justin Fields with the pick 3-4 years ago, right? In the draft. Because in my head, similar to if the Bears pick Caleb Williams with the number 1 overall pick, I'm like, we're finally taking a fucking shot. We're not being conservative. We're not doing this. We took a shot on a very athletic quarterback from Ohio State, and he has made some incredible moves. He has made some incredible plays for the Bears these last 2 seasons. It just never seems to be put together at the right moments for the right amount of time. It just like the things that don't seem to line up. And we went into this season again. You got DJ Moore. You got a solid number 1. Cole Kmet the season prior was looking like a solid tight end option. The offensive line with Tevin Jenkins, Larry Borum, and Braxton Jones seemed to be getting better too. One of the things that I pointed out, and the defense was vastly improved from last year. It took them a few games, took them almost half the season to really get in a groove, but it happened. And yet, where are we? We got our 7 wins, and cool, we got our 7 wins, but we could have been in the playoffs. There was 2-3 games there that we should have won. And regardless if it was the play calling, regardless if it was Justin Fields, regardless if it was the team or the defense, it just does not seem to line up right now with Justin Fields at quarterback. It just doesn't, and it sucks. And it does suck because, again, I was excited for Justin Fields, and I'm going to be happy if he goes anywhere and he has success. I am going to be rooting for that guy. No
Are you
matter
gonna be
where
mad
he
if
goes.
he comes and Sean Payton like unlocks him, and it's like he's throwing for like let's say Caleb Williams is like
Don't do it.
having
Don't do it. If Justin Fields balls out for, let's say, the Broncos, I would be so happy for him because in his head, he's probably like, finally, someone understands who I am, what type of player I am, and what type of system works for me. They're building around me. They are building a game plan for me. On the on my side with Caleb Williams, again, if they get a quarterback that is already predetermined to be like one of the top quarterbacks in the draft, his future is going to be he's speculated to be one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL in his future. Like, fuck yeah, let's go for it. Because Ryan Poles right now, our GM, really on pretty good.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
Ryan
went out.
Poles hasn't. Yeah, I know. You're saying Ryan Poles up to this point hasn't really swung anything big. I think.
Yeah, exactly. And really the only thing he has done that's very, very questionable has been the Claypool trade. Again, and that's the one type of thing. A lot of these guys that are coming up that are rookies, like Tyreek Stevenson, Tevin Jenkins, or sorry, not Tevin Jenkins, Braxton Jones, a few other guys. Like, these guys are doing really well in the system. So through the draft, Ryan Poles knows exactly what he's doing. He got the first round pick from Carolina and DJ Moore last season. Like, how is that not a fucking masterclass and absolutely, robbing of an entire franchise from a first round pick and the number 1 overall receiver, a guy who had a stupid good year for the Bears and had one of his career best seasons in his career. Like, it's just, he hits. Fucking Ryan Poles hits on the draft and hits as a GM. So really, all I'm saying,
trust his judgment on the whole thing.
Exactly. That is what I'm saying. Really, at the end of the day, I trust Ryan Poles. If he does decide to trade the first overall pick for an absolute haul and brings in an offensive lineman and brings in a wide receiver and brings in a defensive guy, because remember, the Bears not only have the number 1 overall, they've got the 8th or 9th overall pick as well. So if you're trading the first round pick and you're able to use those 2 first round picks that you have for immediate starters, and you still have second round talent that is going to be an immediate starter, like, and you're going to build around Justin Fields, I have to trust that Ryan Poles knows exactly what the fuck he's doing. He's bringing in Shane Waldron. He's gotten rid of Getsy. He's kept Eberflus. I have to trust in Ryan Poles, one of the best GMs that I've seen in my last decade as a Bears fan, that he knows what he's doing and that this is the correct and right direction for the Bears to go in.
Did Poles hire Eberflus?
Technically, no. Eberflus was hired a day after Ryan Poles was hired. So the ownership and the guy who used to be our CEO before I forget his name now, they basically narrowed it down to like 3 guys for Ryan Poles. And in my opinion, they had already made the decision. So technically they got Ryan Poles and then the coach, but really it was, they had the coach and then they got Ryan Poles. So that's kind of how it is. Again, I trust Ryan Poles. I have to. He's been doing really well as a GM. So whatever direction he goes in, I have to go with it. I do. I really do.
Well, we are going to have another off season that's just going to be the NFL is going to look so different in just 4 months. There's going to be all kinds of different, and we're talking big names.
We
Like
are.
Caleb Williams and Drake May are big names, but LSU, Jaden Daniels, he's probably going number 2 overall. A lot of people are saying he's going to go over Drake May.
He's becoming one of those guys that's almost like an Anthony Richardson, where he came out of fucking nowhere. Maybe not necessarily out of nowhere, but it's just one of those.
Not as much as him because he had more college success than Anthony Richardson.
Correct.
But still, like, I think by the time, and there's always one, like, who's going to be the Anthony Richardson? Like, who's going to be that one to come forward? But you're going to have at least 5, probably 4 quarterbacks that are going to be coming from the draft starting immediately. And then you got quarterbacks that are just going to be on different teams like Wilson and Fields. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited for the playoff. I'm excited for just waking up one day and finding out, you know, Denver moved up to number 2 or number 1 or number 3 or just that kind of a news. Cause I don't know if I told you, but I fell for on Twitter. Some dude posted Commanders hire this guy and then trade number 2 overall pick to Denver. And I was like, no fucking way. I freaked out. And then I was on NFL.com and I didn't see it. And I was like, well, maybe this guy just like got it first. And it didn't happen. I was
10 minutes later, you're like, so why isn't Schefter on this?
I'm like, I've never fallen for it, but it's never been something that I'm that emotionally invested in. So
that's true.
Normally I'm thinking about it, but I just celebrated.
Every time I see something like that literally like, is this true? I go to NFL.com, I go to ESPN, I go to Adam Schefter's page. And if it's not there, I'm like, okay, bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and with the Steelers and Pats, both with Mac Jones and Kenny Pickett, look for them to either Justin Fields, Russell Wilson. I'm feeling something there. Like, I don't know if they're going to draft because they may not want to move up to get to, you know, Drake May or whatever. But it seems right kind of in line with the Patriot way to get Russell Wilson. Doesn't that just feel right? Yeah, like Russ is a politician. The way he doesn't, you know, he's perfect. I remember there was a lot of people saying when he got to Denver, they're like, this is a weird relationship because Sean Payton's like the drunken sailor, and you know, Russell Wilson's like the perfect Christian, and and it was like 1 week into the job, and Sean, it was leaked from someone that was close to Sean that overheard him tell Russ, hey, stop kissing babies. You're not running for fucking president.
Yes.
And, you know, I can see where he's coming from. Like, dude, stop with the show. We have work to do.
We're trying to win a Super Bowl.
And I think I just don't see that relationship working out long term. And I think by this time next week, Denver makes an official announcement that they're releasing Russell Wilson. I think it's going to happen in about 7 days from now.
Oh,
so, big
Kyle
news.
Already calling the shot.
Yeah, big news coming up. But yeah, that's the NFL news roundup for today.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging with us through all that. And I wanted to ask you a question, Kyle, and I also want to ask you for the chat. And I think I know the answer. It's pretty obvious, but like, do you think the offseason lives up to how exciting the season is? Do you think it lives up to that?
To me, that's like you asking me if I like rom-coms or psychological thrillers more, right?
Yeah.
I love them both in a totally different way. There will never be, well, you know what? The same feeling you get winning a game is you feel like how you're going to feel when you draft Caleb Williams, that feeling.
Yeah.
Like,
true.
Yeah, that's like very similar to winning a big game. Like when you get those, I remember exactly where I was. I was in a classroom doing TAPS, the military class when you're getting out. And my phone was vibrating, not from like the news, but from all of my family members that were like, oh my God, Broncos quarterback. And I thought they were trolling me because 3 hours ago, Aaron Rodgers re-signed with the Packers. And I was like, ha ha, fuckers.
You're like,
And
shut
then
up.
they were like, no, Russell Wilson. And I was like, what is going on? I'm
Like,
trying to
no
keep my
fucking
composure in the
way,
classroom.
yeah.
And I opened up my NFL app and it's like breaking Broncos blockbuster trade, Russell Wilson. The way I felt, I still get chills.
You're like, oh my God.
Like, holy shit. I was so happy. I called people.
Yeah.
Like, it felt like we won a Super Bowl because we thought we were getting, you know, everything that he was in Seattle, which was
Super Bowl Russ,
a top 10 quarterback in a lot of metrics. Especially I'm talking like all time, like fastest quarterback to ever win 500 football games or 100 football games. Only quarterback to win 100 football games in less than 10 seasons. So I mean, yeah, big disappointment, but yeah, they're definitely special in their own way.
Yeah, same for me, man. It's you love them in different ways, like you said, because the season on Sundays, getting ready for another week of football, hoping your team can beat the other team. It's like there's some sort of adrenaline to it. You know, there's something to it. Like if we win this one and we win next week, all of a sudden we're in the playoff race again. Or I want to know how this player looks because we're betting on him for the franchise, shit like that. So I'm excited about both because, you know, just talking about the draft, talking about free agency, talking about coaches, it like gets me hyped for the off season, right? So it does. Again, loving it in two ways, but Bill is definitely not a fan. He's saying not going to be invested in this off season like I was last year. You get your hopes up about new people just to be crushed by reality.
No,
later.
Bill.
Sorry, Bill.
Don't go don't go
to the dark side.
Yeah. Go the other way. You turn around.
You gotta be hopeful. You gotta be hopeful.
Don't lose that hope. I feel that I'm in. I've never been in this situation my whole life. I guess I was spoiled. I never felt spoiled. I felt like New England was spoiled. But looking back on it, we at least, you know, we were always a playoff team, and if not, there was some ups and downs in there, but not like this. Longest drought in franchise history, but I got some chives.
Well, right before we get to chives, Kyle, let's talk a little bit about the Only Football Podcast schedule moving forward. And Bill's like, Schoen was talking about Trubisky, and I'm like, no, which is an absolutely perfect response. But the season is over. We're getting into the off season. The Only Football Podcast's third off season.
Wow.
In history, which is just going to be exciting moving forward. It's going to be awesome. And this is what our schedule is going to kind of look like moving forward. So Mondays and Thursdays, going to keep it kind of similar to what Monday and Thursday night football was. Obviously, with our work schedules, there are going to be some weeks where, hey, maybe we need to do a Tuesday or Wednesday or something like that. But for the most part, you can, and that doesn't say, and that's not supposed to say Eastern, it's supposed to say Pacific Standard Time. Sorry, I'm going to change that right now. For the most part, this is going to be what the schedule is going to be. So 8 p.m. Central, or maybe a little bit before that, but right around that time, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for all you guys. And if you're on the East Coast, it's 9 p.m. East Coast time. So just want to give you guys an update on what our schedule is going to look like moving forward. And again, this is what we're going to like, what is most likely going to be what our schedule looks like on a week-to-week basis. But we're always going to make sure to update you guys with, hey, we're going to change it to this day, this time. And maybe, you know, might hit you guys with a surprise episode on some days. So we'll definitely see.
Maybe some surprise guests.
Some surprise guests. Either way, it's going to be another exciting offseason here on the Only Football Podcast. And we thank you guys so much for being a part of this with us, because couldn't really be anywhere without you guys. I mean, we went from what, like 3-4 viewers last year's Super Bowl to this year's, we were in double digits pretty consistently, you know, with YouTube and Twitch. So we are growing, and it's whether it's slow or fast, we're growing no matter what. So we're just very grateful for you guys being here, and we hope that moving forward in this offseason is going to be exciting, and we can bring you more news and stuff like that.
We're either growing or we're dying. That's only there's
And we
only
ain't
two
dying.
options. They say you're either getting better or you're getting worse. You're either growing or you're dying, and you guys are definitely the heartbeat of the channel. Ginger
walks in at the
up?
perfect time as we're talking about some of our most loyal fan followers,
Hell yeah.
whatever you want to call yourselves, only football heads, whatever. But thanks for coming in, Ginger. Make sure also to throw a like on the video if you could, throw a subscribe, follow on Twitch, Twitter, X, whatever. Please make sure to throw
Ginger,
a like.
subscribe, dude. We've been trying to get you for years.
Ginge, come on, man.
But Rick's right. I speak for myself when I say I am growing. Like right now, I'm growing.
Oh, I've been grown.
I am growing.
Been grown this entire time. What do you think is holding up my desk?
Okay.
But Kyle, the little chives, the little
chives.
Little chives.
Okay. I'm going to be doing this probably for my chives for the next 8 weeks. NFL rookie grades based on team, starting with the AFC West. We'll do one division per chives. The Chiefs get a B. Their first round selection was Felix, defensive lineman, Rashee Rice, of course. Wanama Morris, he had only 4 starts. Shamari Connor, safety, 7 starts. BJ Thompson, and some guys you haven't heard of. So they get a B. Raiders get a B. Their number 1 pick was Tyree Wilson. 17 games, 0 starts.
Yeah, he was definitely an underperformer. Yeah, he was definitely an underperformer when you look at like Jalen Carter and you look at the guy the Texans got. I forget his name.
Number 7. Yeah, Will Anderson. You got 0 starts, and he was number 7 overall. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Michael Mayer, 14 games, 12 starts. Byron Young, Trey Tucker, Chris Smith. They end up getting a B grade, probably because Wilson didn't start any games, but he did flash power and athleticism to be a force on the edge in time. He had 3.5 sacks. They're saying that only tells part of the story because he lined up inside and outside to use his length and strength. Okay, their day 2 pick, Mayer, he stepped in to contribute immediately. There's reason to believe they'll be a big part of the passing game next year and beyond. Mayer is a solid move the chains tight end, and Tucker's looking explosive in the slot. All right, Chargers. They get a C. Okay. Their first round selection, Quentin Johnson, which if he would have watched Steve Smith's rookie breakdown every year, you guys should watch this. Steve Smith breaks down the wide receiver class, and he was right about everything. Absolutely everything. He was right about Quentin Johnson's flaws. Yeah, big body, but doesn't know how to use it. Plays too passive for a big body. JSN is the most polished receiver. Zay Flowers probably has the best statistical season. I mean, he was just check every box. Jordan Addison's going to be good. Like, he was awesome. And those are like the big ones, but he goes into those day 3, day 4 guys as well. So the Chargers end up getting a C. Former Chargers general manager Tom Telesco selected Quentin Johnson despite concerns about his hands and consistency. He flashed at times, but ended up averaging only 11.3 yards per catch and scoring twice, despite Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both missing time with injury. Joey Bosa, again, missed significant time with injury. And Tamutalu had 4.5 sacks, so that was a decent contribution. But overall, C, average. The Broncos, they get a D.
The harshest critic.
Marvin Mims Jr. we didn't have a first round pick. So
that's right.
Marvin Mims Jr. though makes the Pro Bowl as a returner, as a rookie.
Okay.
He led the NFL in punt yards per return.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's a grand slam. Drew Sanders didn't really get to start that much, but that's because Alex Singleton was playing at a really high level this season, along with Josie Jewell. Those two
Mm-hmm.
guys didn't really give Drew Sanders a chance to get on the field. So when you actually look up, I was just looking up like best defensive grades of the year, and it was Alex Singleton was like number 2, like in the NFL.
Wow.
Just like he had a really solid year. So maybe
I mean,
Drew
he
Sanders,
showed it too.
Yeah, he was everywhere. He was one of the leaders, and if not the leader in the tackling leader. Bobby Wagner also was on that list. He had a good year as well. Riley Moss, our white corner from Iowa, he
all white team.
No, just that one. But he had 0 starts in 14 games. JL Skinner, the safety we drafted from Boise State, he didn't get a start. So there, Mims jumped off the page, but all these other guys, I mean, they struggled a little bit here and there, but this is kind of the first year where we have a legitimate draft again. I mean, the Russell Wilson, I mean, we've been dealing with that trade for 2 years. No first round picks the last 2 years, along with second round picks and fourths and thirds and players. I mean, that trade really was like, that trade will probably go down, Rick, as the worst trade, like historically.
Yeah.
It's right there with the Barry Sanders, or not Barry Sanders. Was it Walter Payton?
Ricky, talking about the one.
It was the big trade that there was like a team, they like sold everything to get him.
Yeah, it was Ditka when he was on the Saints for what's his name, the running back Ricky.
No, not Ricky Williams.
Not Ricky Williams. Are you talking about? Which one are you talking about then?
It was
a running back?
Worst trades in NFL history. I just Googled it. It's here it is. Minnesota, number 80. Hold on.
Dion?
Let's get to the article. Here it is. Number 1, Damian Lillard. Wait, I'm talking about football, you dummies.
Yeah.
Hold on. Here it is. Worst trades in NFL history. Oh, okay. Hold on. Bear with me. I got to get this. I can't let it go. Hold on. Worst trades. Here we go.
I
think it was Walter Payton. Trying to see worst trades in NFL history. Okay, you got the Trey Lance trade, rightfully. Okay, and then you got Ricky Williams and Herschel Walker.
Oh,
that's what it was. It was
Walker?
So it was Ricky Williams and Herschel Walker. They both headlined the worst trade. So Herschel Walker. This is what the Cowboys received: linebacker Jesse Solomon, David Howard, Isaac Holt, Alex Stewart, a Minnesota first, a Minnesota second, a sixth, a 1991 first, a 1992 second, a Minnesota third.
Wow.
10 assets. And the Vikings received Herschel Walker and a third, a fifth, a 10th, and a third. I mean, so the Russell Wilson trade is going to be parallel to Herschel Walker, Ricky Williams, Trey Lance. I mean, it's in my opinion, it's worse than the Trey Lance. It's with Herschel Walker.
I mean,
it's like Herschel Walker and Russell Wilson when you compare, because we could do that too. But unfortunately for us, it's not only players, but it's JSN. It's what's the corner, Weatherspoon, or Devin Weatherspoon. Like those are our picks, and those are guys that went on to. I mean, Seattle made the playoffs last year, and they picked 4th overall, 5th overall. That was our pick.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
and
they got JSN, right?
And they got JSN, and then last year the same thing happened, and they got Witherspoon. Wait, no, JSN.
Maybe it was the other way around.
Oh no, they had 2 first-round picks.
They
They got
did, yeah.
JSN with their second pick, and they got Witherspoon with ours.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's absolutely awful. But now we can judge, moving forward.
Yeah,
we can get some picks back, and yeah, maybe we can get above a D next year. But
that's all right. Mitch Trubisky. That's all I got to say, dude. Mitch Trubisky. We traded a fuck ton of picks for that guy, and then
I just hate being on this side of history. I'm done with it.
It's the worst, dude. Because then you don't have any first rounders, and you're just like, what am I even watching this for? To see what superstar they're gonna pick with my team gave them. So worse than Deshaun. Yeah, it's up there.
Well, Deshaun, he still can do something.
That's true.
There's still hope that he can. I mean, with the way that Cleveland team played with Joe Flacco, don't be surprised. I'm not doing any predictions here, but don't be surprised if somebody's got Cleveland in a big game next year.
Shit. And I want to get to this comment by Jinja. Used my length and strength this evening. Who am I kidding? Length is an overstatement. Thank you guys so much. And I think I wanted to add one more thing, as we go into this off season, other than the Only Football schedule kind of moving forward. Kyle and I also have our own YouTube pages where we're going to get a little bit more into like our own creativeness, right? Like I'm going to lean more into the Bears content game and maybe like some other stuff that I want to do. Kyle's going to do the same thing, get into Denver Broncos stuff and get into other things on the comedy side that he wants to do. So we're going to make sure to give you guys our ats on YouTube, and shit, I'll give it to you right now. Mine is Yo, I'm Rick, and I'm sure you've seen me in the comments here. So that is my ad on YouTube. So make sure to go subscribe to that page where I'm going to be bringing you guys some Bears content and just some funny stuff that hopefully you guys find entertaining. But we're, Kyle and I are doing this to try to gain a more audience on our own teams and on the comedy side to bring into the Only Football podcast family. But Kyle, what's your ad on YouTube for your own page?
Mine is my first and last name, and I think
nice.
I think Bill and Jinja, I think they're subscribed.
Oh, okay, nice. There you go.
Yeah, I'm not sure when it happened, but I remember Jinja saying something a while ago about one of the videos I had on my YouTube, and I was like, oh yeah. But you know what? It's probably because when you're going live or something, and I couldn't be here, I would go in the comments.
Oh, that's probably it.
Yeah. So that's probably it. But yeah, in case you guys don't have it, like Rick said, gonna be working on some kind of leaning into Broncos and stuff like that. So check it out.
Check it out, and we'll make sure to put it up on the page here so you guys could go follow us again through the off season, through the regular season. Obviously, our commitment is to you guys and the Only Football podcast, because I mean, look at the empire we have built, and it's only going to get better from there. No, there's no hope for Russ.
No, I mean, he had a pretty good year, but I now he's going to have to go somewhere else, and he's 37, coming up on 37. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying there's no hope for him. I mean, I would believe in him if Sean was like, hey, we're going to run it back. I would be like, all right, well, let's get it. But we gave, there's nothing he could give us back unless he's going to win the Super Bowl next year.
Yeah, I was going to say, to
make up for what happened these last 2 years after we gave up everything to go 3-15. Everything. So so the damage is already done.
The damage is done.
I'm already been hurt. And I can't be fixed.
Kyle's going to cry. Kyle's going to cry.
No, I said I wasn't going to cry.
We're not going to cry right now, Kyle, because thank you guys so much for joining us on this stream. We recapped the Super Bowl. We got into some NFL news. We talked about the schedule moving forward with the Only Football podcast and our own channels moving forward this offseason. There's a lot of exciting stuff to talk about. So much to look forward to in the draft. So don't think that we're going to be off our game. we're going to be just bringing you just as much content, just as much excitement as during the regular season. Obviously, there's no games on Sundays, but we're going to try to do our best to give you guys some content to look at. Maybe not live streams, but some short, some long form content. Like, we're going to be doing our best to make sure the Only Football podcast just grows and grows and grows. And obviously, you could go follow us on X, formerly Twitter. You could follow me at and now Rick, and you
Wait,
can
I'm coming in. I'm coming in.
Hold on. Do it. You could go follow the Only Football page at Only Football Pod. And Kyle, where can they follow you at?
You can follow me at NFL with Kyle. No FTBLONLYPODCAST. We got rid of it. It was too complicated. I'm just so mad Bill's the only one that was honest enough to let me know. Everybody else just let me roll with it. And then one day Bill was like, so complicated for absolutely no reason.
Bill, I love it. Bill's just like, why the fuck?
5 minutes later after the stream.
Yeah.
How to change your Twitter handle.
And Ginger, are we gonna have trivia night again? We are gonna do something. We may not have entire nights dedicated to trivia night, but I think it's something that Kyle and I both enjoyed, and you guys obviously enjoyed it too. So I think we're gonna try to implement that for sure on our live streams and you know, just go from there. But we're Kyle and I are definitely gonna just huddle up before the off season truly begins and kind of plan some stuff out for you guys. And don't worry, the trivia isn't completely gone. The trivia is not completely gone because that's exciting and it's always fun for everybody to guess. But we will be bringing you some other stuff for sure.
Hell yeah! All right, guys.
All right. Yeah, thank you guys so much again for joining us on this live stream. And please remember to subscribe, to like the video, tell your friends, tell your family, tell acquaintances, tell a random stranger on the street about the Only Football podcast. Kyle is waving his used sock around in the air. What is it used, Ben? I don't know. We don't want to know that information. But Kyle, always a good time, brother. And I'll see you next time.
See ya.